Hi, good afternoon. My name is Barbara Butler. I'm the host of Conversations with Barbara, and tonight I am sitting here with Tara Smith, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her story about her surviving cancer. Tara, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So, of course, my name is Sarah Smith. I am a married woman. We have 6 children together, and we have 4 grandchildren.
Okay.
One, two, three, four. Yes, 4 grandchildren. Anyway, so I'm a property manager. I am a God-fearing woman. I am just a Wonder Woman, Kim Shaw. So, I think I can do it all, and that's a problem sometimes.
So, okay, let's just jump straight into it. So, when were you diagnosed with cancer?
So I was diagnosed almost 9 years this month.
Wow, that's
Yes.
good.
So, well, actually, it was in June, but 2015.
Okay.
June 2015.
Now, did you have some type of symptoms before you got diagnosed, or?
So the problem is that the symptoms that people say for colon cancer, because that's what I had, colon cancer, are like constipation or all different kinds of things that have to do with your bowels. But as a Black woman, we have so many problems going to the bathroom, being constipated, being able to be regular. So I'd always been that way my whole life. I always had issues being regular, going to the bathroom without taking like Metamucil,
Right,
or doing enemas and things like that. So outside of that, the weekend that I was diagnosed, well, the weekend I went to the hospital is when I knew that something was wrong because I couldn't go. And my mom had kept giving me like some kind of laxatives, like, here, take this. You know, when your mom, you tell your stomach hurt, that's
right,
the only thing she says is, here, take this laxative.
right.
Oh, that didn't work, take this one. So by the time I left her house, we were in Delaware because it was Memorial Day weekend. And by the time I left her house, I was like, I felt like I was going to explode.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, nothing's working. It's been 3 days. I went home and went to sleep. And when I woke up the next morning, I went to the emergency room.
Okay, so I guess I've never heard of women having colon cancer. I've always known of that's something that men get. And as they get older, they get colon cancer. So I was surprised when I heard that that's something that you had, because the lack of knowledge that I have, I just thought that only men could get colon cancer. Wasn't aware that women could get it also.
So that's what they used to say. They used to say that colon cancer was an old man's disease. But we know that's not true. We now know that's not true. I was 38. I know someone else who was 25.
Wow.
And in this journey, I've met more and more people. And then also just seeing people lately. There's a few stars that were diagnosed, like Katie Couric. She died from colon cancer. And then we know Chad Boswick. He died from colon cancer. And there's a lot of different people. But I think that it was just, even in my family, I never knew that my great aunt died from colon cancer.
Wow.
Because in my mind, I remember hearing them say she had brain cancer, but what it actually was she had colon cancer and it spread it to her brain. And so we have to do better with knowing our family history and being able to advocate for ourselves, because even when you go to the doctors, they say that you get tested for colon cancer at 45.
Right.
I would have never known. I was 38.
Right.
So
how has cancer affected you and your family?
So I remember when it happened, and my mom told me, I don't think this was for you. I think this was God's message, and it was for someone else. It was for us, like my mom and my husband and my kids. I'm not sure what happened. We never know God's plan or what,
Exactly.
Why something comes and attacks us. But it definitely brought us closer together. It pushed everyone's hands, not because this was me. It was just like, wait, this is disrupted. Something's wrong. We have a problem. The person who everyone goes to, the person who's never sick, the person who always has everything together, our Wonder Woman is sick, and it could possibly be terminal. We don't know what it is.
Right.
And so it did bring us closer together. Today, my husband and I are stronger than we've ever been, so almost 10 years later. But before then, we had a good marriage.
Right.
And the children, when I was diagnosed, the 4 oldest children were all approaching milestone ages, 21, 18, and 16. And I remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, how are they going to get the summer jobs? Because they were all working summer jobs that summer. How they gonna get back and forth?
You're
Because
still trying to take care of everybody else.
Yes. My
Yes.
kids didn't know how to catch the train. They weren't kids that caught the subway here and there. They were, Mommy, can you pick me up?
Right.
The year before that, when they worked their summer jobs, I would leave work at lunchtime, go pick them up, take them home, and go back to work.
Wow.
So when I said, "Oh wow, how did they get back and forth to work this summer?" My sister said, "They're gonna catch the train.
They'll figure it out."
Like,
Right.
oh, my kids don't catch the train. But they learn, and so it kind of just made us all more aware of how important it is to make memories, to spend time together, to just be supportive to one another. I think.
Sometimes I think when people hear a cancer diagnosis, they automatically think that, oh my God, I got to start preparing because this means that I'm going to die like right away. I think it's like a stigma in our community that once you hear the word cancer, that you automatically think that I'm about to die.
I felt like that, but let me just explain. And I mean, God had put me somewhere years before that. Those 2 years before I was diagnosed, He built me. He consistently put things in my ear, and I was obedient. And so when cancer did come, I was not worried. I prayed for support for my family. I mean, of course, support for myself. I did say to God, like, look, I'm not ready.
Right.
Like, I know this is what it is, but I'm not ready.
Right.
Because when they found the tumor, the first thing they said was, okay, so it was 3.5 by 4 centimeters. It was the size of a tennis ball. And they were like, because of the size of it, it has to be at least stage 4. So we're talking about chemo. And so my mom was there. I remember my mother crying and like, okay, let me call this person. Let me call that person. And I was like, hey, stop. Wait. Like, what's the plan? Can you go get the oncologist?
Right.
Go get the doctors. Let's talk about what the next step is, because I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. The other thing about it is when, doctors that don't have bedside manner
Right.
come in and tell you have cancer. She looked at me. She said, we have to lower your heparin drip, because I had also, when they found the tumor, they also found 2 blood clots. We're gonna lower your blood thinners. And by the way, it was malignant. And she tapped me on my shoulder and said, "Good luck." And she walked away. She didn't wait for my response. She didn't say, "Do you need to talk to someone?" And my mom and my husband had went downstairs to the cafeteria, which was me and my sister. And I looked at my sister, and there was a nurse in there.
Right.
I looked at my sister. I was like, "Malignant, benign. Malignant means you have cancer. Benign is no cancer." So I was like, "Did she just tell me I have cancer?" And my sister was like, "Yeah." And the nurse came over and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Can I hug you?"
Right.
And I was like, okay, but I'm still in my mind
trying to process.
What does this mean? Because I'm just like, malignant benign. And so I was like, well, call Mommy and LeBron. I told my sister that. So she called them and they came upstairs. And so it was just, everything just happened so fast. It just happened so fast. And so we ended up planning. And the doctor was like, okay, we're going to just get the, wait to see exactly what the next step would be. And when we talked about it, we decided that we would wait and just go through the surgery. We did the surgery the next morning. And so then it was healing. Then the healing came.
Right.
And so I was worried, but I wasn't scared, if that makes sense.
I understand. Okay. So what has been the most significant change that you see in yourself after the cancer?
I feel like I found myself a little bit. After I had cancer, I made sure that I just took more time for myself. It was almost like, get back to you. Get back to you. And what does that mean? And so I was off of work from May until October. So the morning times after I was able to drive again, I would go to the library. I would go to Busboys and Poets and just have breakfast, take a book, go to the park, and just get some time back to me. And so even now, almost 10 years later, I still have to remind myself, go back, like, hold on, wait a minute. You're getting ahead of yourself. You're doing so many things for everybody else. And then you're forgetting about yourself again.
Right.
And so I think that it just kind of let me lean on God more, accept support from people.
Right.
And get back to myself.
One of my cousins has cancer, and she told me that her perspective on everything has changed. things that used to be important to her is no longer important.
Mm-hmm.
Things that some things are more important to her husband than it is to her, because her perspective has changed on life.
Right.
And sometimes they clash a little bit on what she feels is important and what he
feels.
Right.
That makes sense because you change, and I remember saying, like, I'm just a different person now.
Right.
I'm not who I used to be. I have to take care of myself. I have to pay attention to the things that's going on, and I'm not who I used to be.
Right.
And I like it.
Right.
The things that are important are important. If they're not important, they're not. That goes for relationships. That goes for people. That just goes for everything. And if everyone, you have to be able to give to those who give to you.
Right.
You have to be able to, and I'm not saying if someone, because I hate when people say, oh, she ain't call me, I ain't calling her. Check on your strong friends.
Right.
Too. Absolutely. But pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
Take stock and pay attention to what's in your life, what's important, what's not, who's there, who's not during those important times, and move forward.
Right.
In a healthy way.
Right.
And that's whatever that means for you.
I understand that. So who, what, and where did you turn to when all this happened?
God.
So I know God, your husband.
God, my pastor. So my church was very supportive. Liberty House, Lance O's. The church was very supportive. My mom and my sister and my husband. It was almost like they just went into planning mode.
Right.
Because I was used to picking my son up, taking him to school. So every day, my husband would pick up my son because Teron was like 4. Well, how old is he now? He's 14. Yeah, so he's like 4 or 5.
Wow.
She would pick him up. He would pick him up from school, take him to my sister's house. She would keep him, and then they would take turns taking him to school. And then the older ones were on their own, like not on their own, but they were able to catch the bus and do things on their own. But
it grew them up fast.
It definitely did. It definitely did. They were responsible for each other and themselves. And then my husband was working all the time, and we were doing our side gig because in the summer times we always cooked at the basketball tournaments.
Right.
And so it was like right the week before that happened. So he was going back and forth from the hospital doing the cooking, and that cooking's like you're working all day till 4 or 5 o'clock. Then he's cooking at the tournaments till 10, 11 o'clock at night, and then I'm in the hospital. And so it was really just a busy time, but I needed rest also.
Right.
So I slept a lot of the times while I was in the hospital, and then when I came home, I needed their support because I had to give myself daily shots for the blood thinners, and I just had a lot of doctor's appointments. My father-in-law came to me. My mom was from Delaware, but she stayed here in D.C. To help. So it was just that support, and that's one of the things that I prayed for. Like, listen, God, I don't want this to be terminal. I'm not ready to die. I have a lot to see. I want to have grandkids. I want to see my children get married. But please make sure that my family has the support they need.
Right.
And we definitely had that.
So once you were able to understand everything that was going on, how did you explain it to your kids?
We had a meeting at the hospital, I remember, and a couple of my nieces and nephews and cousins were there, and I had a couple of people from church, girlfriends were all in there, and we kind of just all explained it. I had a doctor there also. Like, this is what's going on. And at that time, we still didn't know what stage it was, because it was a 7-day period from the time that I got the biopsy till I found out it was stage 1.
Okay.
So during that time, we were still just like, okay, so this is what it is. They found a tumor. It is cancerous. We don't know what we're going to do, whether it be chemo or if surgery is just going to be enough.
Right.
And we just talked to them and explained that to them. And they asked the questions that they, and no one asks, are you going to die?
Right.
But
because kids don't think that about their parents.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So I could tell everybody was worried. And so we did talk to them and explain, the whole process and what we were going to do. And when we found out it was stage 1, I was relieved, to say the least. Like, God came through one more time.
Always.
For me. And it's stage 1, and the surgery should be enough.
Okay. So what was one of the biggest parenting challenges you had during this?
One more, what'd you say?
Parenting challenges.
I felt like, so I don't want to say I was a controlling mother, But I was the mother that knew where my kids were at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I kept track of them. Like, where are you? What's going on? Oh, you want to go out tonight? What time? With who? Those things. And I couldn't do it.
Right.
It was driving me crazy. I couldn't do it because I had to take care of myself.
Right.
And so I would every now and then do it, but I kind of just listened to my husband like, I got it. Don't worry about it. But
Thank God you had a supporting husband.
Oh my gosh, yes. I hear people going through things and they don't have the support that they should have, and I did have that. But that's one of the things I prayed for. Remember, like I said, that was the first thing I said was, listen, God, I'm not ready, but I need the support. Make sure they have support. So I was worried about the girls. We have 3 daughters, 3 sons. I was worried about the sons. But the 2 littlest ones, I was worried about them because they didn't have mommy.
Right.
You know, like, I'm not there to make sure they're okay. They fall, I can't kiss their knee.
Right.
I can't do all those things. So those were probably just me worrying all the time because I wanted to be able to control the situation because that's what I thought I was supposed to do all the time.
So what's any words of wisdom you can give someone that has cancer?
Memories. Just creating memories no matter what the result is. I think that, you know, knowing, being aware, advocating for yourself, creating memories, those are all things we have to do. As far as with the healthcare system, I remember having a hard time getting all the tests that I needed. Insurance will pay for chemo before they pay for a PET scan. A PET scan is a scan that goes from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. It's going to be able to see anything inside of your system that, not anything, because, you know, there's always something. Right. But the most things that they needed to see, and my insurance company would not pay for it at the time. They were like, no, she's approved for chemo, but we can't do the PET scan. And so I fought for it.
That has to be stressful.
It was very stressful. Genetic counseling, I did genetic counseling. That bill was like $7,000. I remember calling them saying, I don't have the money, and you guys didn't tell me it was going to be that amount. And they wiped it out. But that counseling was when they look at your DNA to look at, you know, any kind of abnormalities. And I found out that I had a mutated ATM gene, which is a gene that produces protein. And that whatever that mutation was, the chemo would not have worked for the cancer because it would have killed me before it killed the cancer. Because chemo is really just poison. It's a matter of, is it going to get the cancer before it poisons your organs? Is everything going to be okay? What would you come out of? Like, women who have cancer and go through chemo are no longer able to have kids sometimes because their ovaries just don't work. And so those were the things that I found out. So I had to learn how. I already knew how, but I had to write things down in my journal. This doctor said this. They feel like I should do this. What am I going to do? And what makes most sense? Even with my mom bringing me back some leaves from a tree, a soursop tree. One of her coworkers told me that the soursop tree had some kind of protein or something in it that was supposed to kill cancer. And she found some in Florida. When she went back to go get more, all the trees were gone. And so just understanding that this is a disease that creates millions and billions of dollars for the United States, and you are on your own. People with Medicaid have the hardest time getting the medication they need because it's up to what the doctor says. If the doctor says, oh, I'm going to put it through, then it gets to go through. If not, you have to fight. And I did a lot of fighting, even now.
And it's a shame that you have to do that when you're going through this process at this time of your life, that you have to fight the insurance companies and you have to fight for health rights that we should have.
And that we pay for.
Yes.
Like, I've been working since I was 13. I mean, I literally, had my birth certificate changed from 14 years old to 13 years old. To be 14 so that I could work. And so I paid my due. Why do I have to lack the things that I need in this healthcare system when I work? You take all these taxes from me. I pay my taxes. You know, it's why? Those are the things we have to think about.
So what kind of things did you do to distract yourself when you were going through the process?
Like I said, I went to the park. Music has always been an escape for me. Even now, listening to music every day, all day long. Going to the gym, taking walks, going on trips. one of my cousins called me and was like, "Hey, you want to go to Puerto Rico?" And I was like, "Well, I don't have any money." She was like, "I got it." And so I went to Puerto Rico, and it was very therapeutic.
Mm-hmm.
I had been to Puerto Rico before, but it was very therapeutic just to be able to say, I'm away for a minute.
Right.
Like right between.
You didn't have to worry about nothing but yourself.
Didn't have to worry about anything but myself. But people were cruel. People were like, "Oh, if she can go to Puerto Rico, she can go to work. If she can go out of town, she can do this. She can do that." And I just had to like take the distractions out from those people. These are love people. People who love you say things like this.
You know, so
you get to find out who you are to people,
right,
when you are dealing with situations like that.
I think sometimes people comment on stuff that they don't understand or know all of the details of what is going on, and they're just commenting out of ignorance. You understand?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People are scared. People are ignorant. The ignorant don't want to come into the know. They're scared. I mean, it's part and the same, but yeah, it was crazy. It was an ordeal. It was life changing.
I mean, I guess I'm just sitting here because I'm like shocked, because I'm like, I guess I would feel like you deserve that. You know, you've been through this major ordeal in your life, and you deserve some time to yourself.
I felt like I did, but that's why.
And if your family and your husband was okay with it,
that's all it should matter,
right?
And that's what I'm saying. That's why you have to limit the distractions, because I was like, I just can't deal with this. Instead of sitting there, you know, I didn't have to prove myself anymore. I didn't have to say, well, I get to go to Puerto Rico. I just was like, you know, whatever. I'm going to keep living my life because that's what I have to do. Like, I want to create more memories. I want to be able to say, you know, I beat cancer and keep moving. But I forget. So even when you called me and was like, hey, I want to bring you on my show. And I was like, oh, what you want to talk about? And then when you said cancer, you was like, I don't know. Like cancer. And I was like, oh, shoot.
I did have it.
Yeah, I did. And I think of that a lot. Like, oh my gosh, when it comes up again, like I had cancer. Like almost 10 years ago, 2015, I had cancer.
So how are you doing now with your journey with the cancer?
So I still get tested every year. And that's a fight even. Like, it hasn't been 10 years yet, but you're supposed to get a colonoscopy every 5 years now. That's what they say.
Right.
But I'm like,
I thought before it used to be like every year. And then they switched it to every 5 years.
For me, because that's what I say. So when I went, even last year when I went, the doctor was like, well, you haven't had it. So something. But the other thing is, because I had struggles with my bowel, my digestive system for so long. The year before I had cancer, I had just went and seen a GI specialist, and he had me swallow these trackers. The trackers, like some kind of metal trackers, and you can see them on an X-ray, and it'll be able to see if you have any obstruction in your bowel, if there's anything preventing you from being able to go. And I think it was like 20 trackers. They were really, really tiny. I drank them with water and did the X-ray the next day, and they were all gone 2 days later, which means that I had passed all of them and there was no signs of any of them still in my system, and my digestive system was working fine. That was May of 2014. So by June of 2015, when I have cancer and it's the size of a tennis ball, what happened between that 365-day time frame?
Right.
Did they really all just go away? Did I pass all of them really, or did they miss something? But it grew to the size of a tennis ball in a year. So when you tell me, oh, well, you don't need to have a colonoscopy this year because, you know, you can wait 5 years.
Right.
5 years could kill me.
Right.
Because if that was the case in the first time, I wouldn't have made it that long. So I'm glad that I do advocate, you know, for myself, because if I just let the doctors tell me what it is, I would be having a pap smear once every 3 years and having
you don't need
a colonoscopy once every 5 years, and it just doesn't make sense.
All right. I mean, I really do think that people that do have problem going to the bathroom, that it could be something else, and you might need to get checked out. I think, like I said, our community is normal. You know, that happens to our parents, and it happens to us. So we don't take it as serious as we should. Like you said, we just think, oh, we need to take something so that we can go.
But Black people don't take anything seriously. We as a people are like, oh, okay, well, that's what it is. My grandfather couldn't do it. My mother couldn't do it. Da 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 da. But if it's causing you discomfort, whether you have history or not, if it's causing you discomfort, please get checked.
Yes.
And so, like for me, I always had problems with my system since I was young. Like I really was literally full of, like I just could not go. It was I would go once every 2 weeks when I became an adult.
I know a lot of people that's like that tell me that, but they doesn't. It's not dawning on them that something is wrong. They think that's no. Oh, I haven't gone in however long, and they think that's normal.
Well, the other part about it is, like I said, I had went to go see GI specialists, and they just were like, increase your fiber intake. So I started eating like oatmeal and taking the Metamucil when I ate. But yeah, it still was a problem.
Right.
And I'm not saying that I had cancer way back when. I'm saying it was still a problem.
Right.
You know, and so it just never, me increasing my fiber still never had me go regularly.
I just think that we need to stop ignoring signs. I think a lot of times we have warning signs that something is wrong, and we just ignore it.
And we ignore them.
Yeah. And then it gets to the point where if we would have got checked out a while ago, we probably could have prevented some of the heartache and pain that we go through.
But how many times do you see that? Like, that you hear, like my grandmother, she passed away a couple of years ago. Oh, it's been 2 or 3 years, but I remember her having back pain, and she was going to Kaiser telling me she had back pain, and by the time they found out she had cancer, it was too late. They were like, let's, you know, and it was during the pandemic, because I remember them saying if we were not vaccinated, we couldn't come in the back of the hospital room, and I was part of her treatment plan. She wanted me to be there, and they wouldn't let me back because I had not been vaccinated. I went and got vaccinated. By the next appointment, it was too late. 2 weeks later, it was like, you know, she's too old for chemo. We have a trial drug that we can try. Right after that, she stopped walking. She wasn't walking anymore. She stopped talking, was less coherent, and things just started going downhill from that. But it was too late.
Yeah. I mean, I think people, when you go to your doctor's appointment, you should listen to your doctor. But I think sometimes if you know something doesn't feel right or something's not right, you should get a second opinion. You shouldn't always go with the first thing that your doctor tell you. I mean, I'll be like, respectfully, I would like to get a second opinion.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, so they say don't Google.
I know, because I do. If I go to, I'll be like symptoms, and I call my doctor.
If you got a headache, you got AIDS, you got cancer, you gonna die tomorrow. So they say don't Google anything. Talk to your doctor. But then, like you said, the doctor first of all, we already know that God has a final say so.
Right.
So the doctor can say anything he wants to say, but in the end, you know, it's always going to be what God says it's going to be. But yeah, you definitely should get a second opinion, and we definitely have to track it down when we have problems. Like if it's bowel problems, reproductive, whatever it is, talk to your doctor, ask for a second opinion, do some research. Google sometimes. I wouldn't say just Google it and listen to what the person says, but do some research. That way you can ask, you know, informed questions. You can say, hey, doctor, can you test me for this? Or what about that? And see exactly how that goes. Because if we just leave it up to them, you may have a good doctor, a great doctor, but everybody doesn't have that. All doctors are not in the field for the right reason.
Right. And sometimes certain things they're not looking for. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, you might say, can you test me for this? But they're looking for something else. And if you come up negative about that, they're not thinking
then you're fine.
Right.
You're fine. Yeah, yeah. So even with, like, I'm friends with a doctor who found the tumor. Because it was at the emergency room. I'm friends with him on social media, on Facebook. And he could have sent me home. I went to the emergency room. I'm like, I have stomach pains. It's hurting so bad I can barely stand up. I need pain medicine. He said, I can't give you any pain medicine because you drove yourself here, number one. And then number two, we don't know what it is. Right. And, you know, especially if you're having digestive issues, pain medicine is going to numb that area and you still can't go to the bathroom. So they cause you to become more constipated. And so he was like, I'm going to try one more thing. And then he ended up doing, like, we're going to do the CT scan now. He could have easily just said, follow up with a GI specialist. I don't see anything.
Right.
Then he came back and was like, we're going to get you some pain medicine. And I'm like, what happened? What changed from the time when you said you couldn't give me any pain medicine? So now he said, well, we found a tumor the size of a tennis ball in the right side of your colon, and we also found 2 blood clots. please call your husband to see if he can come and get you. Or if he can meet you to the hospital because the ambulance is on his way. It's taking you to the emergency room.
Wow.
Taking you to the hospital. And I was like, what hospital? And he was like, PG. And I was like, I don't want to go there. I was like, please, no.
Don't take me there.
I just remember PG being the worst hospital in the world. I knew it was also a trauma center, but in my mind, I was like, I don't want to go there. And it was the best place for me to
Really?
be. It really, really was. Because
I heard a lot of horror stories.
the hospital was old. So by the time I got there, it was like I was in a room. I was on a cancer ward.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was dying. And I can smell death.
Mm.
And my roommate had stomach cancer, and her stomach was just open. And every morning when I woke up, I would be like nauseous, like I can't. And I told the nurse like quietly, like, I can't do this. You have to move me.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, this is a cancer ward. Like, this is what it is. And they found me. She said, if we had one room, it's at the end of the hall, and it was a room they used years ago, but they don't put anyone in it because the AC didn't work in it. I was like, I'll take it.
Put me there.
And I told LaRon, bring me a fan, please, and bring me a candle warmer because the smell. And one of the nurses came in and was like, she was like, we pray for you. And you don't hear that in the medical field.
Right.
My nurses would come in and pray with me. We prayed in prayer circles.
Wow.
I had some great nurses. And one nurse, her name was Ashley.
Shout out to nurses.
Yes, my mom was a nurse too. And my grandmother was a nurse. So yeah, shout out to Ashley. But Ashley was like, you are the only person on this floor that's able to walk. And that's going to probably walk out of here.
Oh my gosh.
Right now, the patients that are in here are not going to make it home.
That could be kind of a little depressing though, to put everybody with cancer on the same
floor in the same space. So when I did after surgery and I was, they want you to walk around, the nurses would clap like, oh yeah, because I was the only person able to walk. Nobody else was walking. Nobody else was going home.
Right.
I was the only person that was going home.
Wow.
And I remember when Pastor came to the hospital to see me, when I was in the room with the lady, and I don't remember her name. I probably didn't never know her name. But he went into the wrong room. He went into the old room where the lady was, and they had moved me. And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm here to see my daughter." And he said my name, and they were like, "Oh no, it's just her here. But can you pray for her?" And he prayed with them. I remember that.
Oh, wow.
Right before he came to see me, and I was at the end of the hall. But it was very depressing. The smell was overwhelming. It smelled like, I can't describe it. It smelled like old greens because you can smell the iron in the blood.
Greens.
It was like, you know how like if you have Thanksgiving, some collard greens start getting bad, you smell like, oh, they're getting bad. But no, it was that times a million.
Mm.
And it was just this pungent smell that like, it was intrusive. Like you can't stop it from going up your nose and getting into your system. And I just was nauseous every day until I moved into that new room. And the room was huge, but it didn't have any air. Right. And I was okay with it because I'm always cold anyway. So.
Okay, so I would like for you to share something inspirational to everybody that's out here that's listening right now.
And I have to go back to this sometimes when I'm going through things, but when faced with adversity, faced with someone telling you no, faced with things going wrong, just take a deep breath, say a prayer, and go for it. That's it. Because Trust God, because He's going to lead you.
Yep.
If nothing else, He'll calm you. What I learned is when you pray, like if you're praying that your spouse is acting up just because he's chewing gum too loud, God might not stop him from chewing gum too loud.
Right.
But He will close your ears. You don't hear it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So those are the things. Like, take a deep breath. If you got to cry, it's okay. Cry standing up. Don't get stuck in a corner. Just self-pity is definitely the enemy. You got to just know who you are, hold on to God's promises, and go for it. Because there is things to do. You have a story to tell, and people are watching you.
Well, we hope that something that we share tonight will encourage, uplift, and motivate someone that's going through this or any life challenges that you have right now. Please subscribe, like to this channel, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.